Hello and welcome to this video for today, whether you're here for the first time or you're returning. Hope you will enjoy. Today we're talking about essentially the phrase and the meaning behind what people sort of mean when they say the game's got to end. I hear that term quite a bit, and I even say it quite a bit, and it has its own meaning in the games. Yeah, sure, games have got to end, but what does that actually mean within the terms of the game? Because, of course, obviously, the game's got to end. You know, people have got lives and they've got other things to do in their lives than playing games. Of course, we all want to be playing games as much as we can. We like having fun, we like hanging out with our friends and whatnot, all that stuff. We like playing the games that we like playing, you know, no matter what it is, whether it's Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever it is. If you like playing that format and you want to keep playing it, you should do so, you know, again. But what does it mean when people say the game's got to end? Essentially, people are saying, well, this is a means to an end. This will, in theory, make the game end quicker. In other words, I will attempt to win the game, essentially. In a sense, this is what I'm doing to affect winning the game, or to affect the game ending at a reasonable-ish point in which, you know, everyone can do what they want to do, have fun, play the game, but the game progresses. The game's just not, oh, we're all sitting around, you know, just watching each other fiddle with our, you know, fingers and, you know, durdle around and draw cards and just ramp all day. You know, again, that's sort of what I was saying about, you know, ramping into ramp. You know, well, what's the point? It's like drawing into card draw. I know there's people that are out there that just are in for, like, drawing cards and ramping. Like, yeah, sure, drawing cards and ramping are really good, but at a certain point, I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'm done with ramping. I don't need to ramp anymore at all. In this game, I have 20-something mana. I do not need any more ramp or any more mana, really. Maybe I need more card draw, but I definitely don't need more ramp or more mana at this point in the game. What I need is more action. What I need is more things to affect the board, to affect the game, to affect whatever thing it is that I'm trying to do in the game to progress that game towards an end. The game has got to end. That's what we're always sort of saying, you know, and when we say that, we mean, hey, look, don't take any offense to what anyone does in the game, to a degree at least. You know, I'm not like trying to ever like do anything that nobody likes. That's what I don't like about the game. If somebody says, hey, I don't like that, well, do you really not like it, or are you just saying you don't like it, kind of thing? You know, like, if somebody definitely doesn't like something in the game, then they're perfectly valid to saying that they don't like that thing in the game. This is not what they like. You know, that's fine. And you should take people's feelings and whatnot into consideration. You should take people's opinions into consideration. You don't have to agree with them, and you don't have to, you know, follow their advice. Again, you don't have to follow my advice here, but I'm just here to say, hey, you know, my little piece, and get people thinking, get people's, you know, talking, get the conversation going, get the conversation moving forward, because there's no point in saying the same thing over and over. It's good to go over things a bit, to explain it a bit more to more people and to more players and whatnot and things like that. But essentially all these things, you know, need to be distilled, you know, again and again for those people. But again, other people don't need to have that, discussion that much. I play with people all the time. They understand very clearly the game's got to end, and that's one of the things that I try to, instill into people is that your deck can't just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to stasis lock people out of the game, because if you do that, then it's not that you've actually won the game. There's nothing on a card that says the game is over and your opponents cannot win from this point. That's the thing. Your opponents aren't dead. They have not lost and you have not won. The game is not over by definition. Yes, sure, players might just go, well, I can't be bothered sitting here for several hours, I don't know how long, whatever it is, watching this game durdle on at a very extremely slow pace until maybe someone draws removal and has enough mana to actually, affect the 5 or 6 things that are stasis locking us and whatnot, and then the game can actually progress at a normal-ish pace, and then the game might still take another couple hours after that, whatnot. Sure, if the answer for one piece is right there, right then, and whatnot, sure, that's a different thing or whatnot. But again, if somebody's got lots of layers of pieces, then it might just be like, well, look, if I don't get it in the next, if this isn't solved in the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to concede, because, and that's what happens a lot of the time, is just people go, well, I can't be bothered with this. I have not got the time for this. And this is why, again, I tell people, don't play the game this way. There's no point, in my opinion, in playing the game this way, really. Like, there are people that will sit through some of these games again, but there are so many people that won't, and you'll just, not find those people to play with again, because they'll go, oh, you're just going to play your stasis lock, and then it's going to be, a 10-hour game. We just don't have the time for games like that. It's not like we're trying to play CDH over here, and we're going to combo off on turn 1 or 2 or whatever. We're just playing regular, commander and whatnot. We want to have maybe a half hour to an hour, maybe an hour and a half's worth of a game, depending, whatever. That's just fine with us. We don't want to be sitting here for the rest of the day, the rest of the night, the rest of the month, the rest of the year, just playing this one game. We've got other things to do and whatnot. That's what we mean by the game's got to end. So, again, if your deck is doing this whole thing with whatever it is, it doesn't matter how you're doing it, but this is one of the most common ways. Iona used to be one of the ways that you'd shut someone off of playing, and there's the whole Zedru sort of way of giving people these cards that are in your deck that basically say you can't cast creatures, you can't cast more than one spell per turn, whatnot, things like this. So, and especially for a lot of the more casual and even casually competitive sort of style decks, they still have a lot of creatures for the most part, because that's the easiest sort of type to build around. You just shutting off 80% of somebody's deck. The rest of their deck's probably ramp, removal, and card draw, and enchantments and whatnot that basically help out their creature-based strategy for the most part. There's not that many, there's artifact decks and there's enchantment decks, but again, most of those artifact and enchantment decks have creatures in them. And I understand, a lot of these other decks, like life drain and life gain decks and whatnot, don't care about combat damage. And I get that, that's fine. But again, you think of all the pieces that are in there that are creatures, and when you start saying, oh, well, yeah, that's actually true, they have to have their Zulaport cut through, and they have to have all this other stuff to sacrifice a thing to drain people, and they have to have enough things to be able to sacrifice to be able to drain everybody out of the game, or they have to have enough things so that they can mill enough people enough times, or whatever it is that they're trying, whatever win condition that they have, or if they are on mill, just on that plan, that might be a bit different. But again, a lot of the best mill payoffs are on creatures like Fennecs, like things like that. So just shutting down those sorts of effects, or even slowing them down to, having a card that's maybe 1 or 2 mana not be able to be cast for, several turns, just because of all the sort of taxing effects that are out, just makes the game unrealistically long for most people. That's where people say the game's not really, ended. It's just people can't be bothered ending this game or finding a conclusion to this game properly. They're just going to concede. So that's, like, the game isn't technically over. You haven't technically won again. You actually need real win conditions and effects, no matter what it is. I don't care what route you want to go down. Again, you need a real win condition. You need real sets of win conditions, because if you just say, oh, I'm going to stasis lock everyone, no one basically can do anything for the next 5 to 6 hours, you might get people who sit there and go, okay, cool, great, so let's go 5 to 6 hours into this game and, pretend we've sat here for the next 5 to 6 hours. Show us your win condition. Have you got a win condition? Then you go, oh, yeah, no, my plan was just to see if you guys decked yourselves and hope for the best. Like, that's not a win condition. You actually need enough cards to affect people in such a way that they will mill out, or that they will lose all their life, or that they will take 10 infect each, or whatever it is, whatever effect that you want to go with. And I don't care, or there's some infinite combo that you want to put in. Again, you need those effects in your deck. You actually need a win condition, because people will just say, okay, instead of actually paying for 5 hours or whatever, let's pretend we've played for 5 hours. Or even they might even do that. They might even say, let's play for 5 hours then. And where's your win condition then? Things like that. So again, or whatever it is. It depends on the people that you're facing, and again, they might just go, well, have you actually got a win condition in that deck? And then you go, well, no, I don't, or barely any, or whatnot. My win condition is hoping people will scoop to the fact that they can't do anything for the next, millennia or 2 or whatever it is. That's my best bet. Okay, well, we're all not going to do that. And then you just go, oh, okay. So 5 hours later or whatever it is. Oh, okay, so I'm actually dead. And then the other players can now just go about their day as normal. If you didn't have a win condition, that's kind of what happens. If you drew the most cards, you're going to mill out first. If you don't have a way to affect them, now, yes, of course, they can maybe have drawn more cards than you, so you might take out maybe 1 or 2 players just by the order of, turn orders and whatnot. But, realistically, if you can't kill that last player or one of the other players, you lose, because it's like, well, you drew your last card before they drew their last card. So that means you just lose by turn order. Like, you did all that work just to come in second. Because you didn't have any win conditions. That's what I mean. And that's what people mean by saying, you've actually got to affect the game in such a way that the game will end. You can't just sit there and say, I draw a card, I play a land, I pass the turn, and that's the only thing that can happen in the game. You've actually got to play actual threats that will say this plus whatever will win me the game in X amount of time, or with X card I will win the game. So you have to have your Thassa's Oracle, you have to have these other things, whatever it is, again, that you say, okay, I'm going to run these cards that actually say I can win the game, or my opponents have to, mill half their deck, round it up. Oh, okay, then I've got Fleet Swallower or something else, or another effect, or just I can flash that back, or I can get it back to my hand very easily, mill half their deck again. So then they're going to be on a faster turn clock, essentially, by milling out, so you can find a way to win. You need some ways to affect the game, whatever way it is, so that the game actually ends. You actually need a win condition. You can't just play cards that say no one else can play the game, watch me play solitaire for the next couple of hours, because it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually say the game's over and I've won. You need to you need to KO your opponents, or you need a win condition. So that's what people mean by the game's got to end. They're doing things in the game to affect the outcome of that game, and they're not trying to do anything personal against any one particular person or whatever, for the most part. If somebody attacks you with their creature on an early turn and says, hey, look, I'm just going to attack you, I've got a lower life totals or whatnot, this is at least something I can do to start, adding to ending the game more quickly, whatnot, that's it. Don't take it personal. That's where you can't take it personal or whatnot. It's all in the game. Again, don't ever take those sorts of things, whatnot, or I'm just going to drain people's lives, right? I'm going to, because it's targeted, especially when it's targeted, it's a bit different. When it's everyone, it's a bit easier. But when it's targeted, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to target you to drain you an extra 2 life, or an extra 3 life, or 4 life, whatever it is. Again, that's what I'm doing to affect the game and to make the game end. It's nothing personal. The game's got to end. So that's the thing that you've got to keep in mind when you're playing people, and just, it's all good fun to sort of have your little jokes and whatnot in the game as well when, some of these things come up. I do it too, and that's a little bit of, politics or, whatnot, or threat assessment sort of style of stuff, where you're going, oh, well, just, you should leave me alone because I'm just sitting over here with my 2/2 blocker and whatnot. I'm not doing anything. Don't worry about me, sort of thing. And all that's fine, but I always understand the point of saying, well, the game's got to end, so I understand maybe why that person's draining me out at this point. They're just trying to end the game at a reasonable time, and that's it, like, I don't take it personally. I just go, okay, but I'm just sitting over here with my stuff. I'm not doing anything to you. And, I go back to politics sometimes as well. Hey, look, Steve over there, or whatever, whoever, is actually a much bigger threat to you, and you can't actually attack him or do anything else to him because he's got blockers, or because he's got, whatever it is, stasis bridge, or whatever it is. I can't remember its actual name. I can't remember, sorry. So you can't attack him, or he's got the Pegasus enchantment. I can't remember what it's actually called, so sorry. But yeah, he's got that, so basically no one can attack him unless you've got flying or whatnot. So it's just one of those things that, again, you should always point some of those little things out as well to players, to a degree, because it is useful, and some people forget what's going on in the game. There's a lot always going on in the game, but again, don't ever take anything like too much and just be like, oh, yep, sure. If you're going to, like, you can make little discussions, say, oh, well, if you're really like confused and like, hey, wait a minute, I'm on like 15 life over here and Steve over there is still on 40. What's going on? Like, you two haven't said you had a deal or anything. What's going on? You're not targeting him, and here I am on 15. It's not, to my opinion, if you should try to take out each player as evenly as possible. That's just my opinion and my way of looking at it, because once you get down to one-on-one, suddenly it becomes a lot harder a lot of the time, because a lot of the time somebody will just sandbag their stuff and go, oh, well, if you don't hit me, I'll leave you alone or whatnot. And then once they kill the other two players, that player that's been sandbagging this whole time is just going to go, okay, cool, I get rid of all your stuff and then I go and kill you. So that's the thing. That's why I always think you should try to kill everyone evenly, so that you're not going to lose out on the fact that this other person's just sandbagging everything they have that they could answer what you're doing with. I understand that some people think, well, you should take out players as quickly as possible. Yeah, sure, but I still think you should do it as evenly as possible, because that way you can kill people almost all at the same time, roughly, and whatnot. So the game ends with you winning more often, in my opinion. It ends more in your favor, or it's more in your favor, in my opinion, if you affect more people evenly, or as evenly as possible. You can't control your opponents and whatnot. So, you still want to hit somebody who is the biggest threat, but again, you still need to chip away at those other players as evenly as possible. Now, and sometimes it's not that easy, again, but as well, I just think you should try to finish everyone at the same point, because then you're giving them less chances to sort of hold on for as long as possible in a more one-on-one or two-on-one situation. Once you kill one person, the other two players go, oh, well, you killed that one player, we're going to both gang up on you because it's clear that you're in the more dominating position. So, just remember those little things about, like, trying to end the game. You should try to end the game with everyone, and sometimes I've seen this where people will kill one player and then they'll be taken down by the other two players, and then the other two players won't know really what to do, and they'll try to take you down, and then you'll just be in the position of like, well, now I'm at the bottom of the heap, so I'm not a really big threat, guys, and I'm at 15 now. Either one of you could kill me, so you really should focus on each other. And then they start going against each other, and the game just drags on and on and on, because it's sort of just twos and fro's between, who's in front and who's behind and whatnot. People don't really know what to do. Once, it gets down to sort of a 3-player or a 2-player, it's like, well, we both have big armies, or we both have things and whatnot, but we can't really do anything against each other because we're both stalled. So neither of us can get a significant enough advantage against the other to actually affect anything. So that's again where it sort of becomes like you should kill everyone together all at once, therefore no one can really gang up against you and sort of be able to take you down. Now, sure, there are certain circumstances that if you just leave the other two players on 1 or 2 life, and then you're like, well, next turn I can definitely kill both of them, then it's all right, because, like, that's absolutely fine. It's just like, oh, yes, sure, if they don't answer me next turn, cool, they're dead. Like, those things happen where, or it's not literally that, but it's maybe close to that. If you're in that position, absolutely great. But, again, it doesn't happen that much. But again, this has been a bit of a discussion about, mainly the game's got to end, that whole phrase. And in the same vein of the game's got to end, this episode's got to end. Hope you've enjoyed this little discussion we've had here today. Hope you found it informative and interesting. Maybe a little rambly at times. I don't know, but whatever. It is what it is. But you know what? Tell me what you think about this whole the game's got to end sort of mentality or phrase or ideology, whatnot. Write all your thoughts down there in the comments below. Please remember that the success of channels like this is based on viewers like you, so please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you would like to support this content. You can also get social with us on our Discord and on our Facebook. If you would like to further support the channel, you can go onto our Patreon. All links are in the description. Thank you for your support. It really means a lot. I hope you have enjoyed this video here today. And if you have, I hope you will come back for another one. See you then.